Okay, let us commence the neighborhood tour. This little red house here is where my mother's friend used to live. She was blind, so they would sit out on the porch chatting. And I had this stupid game that I loved playing with her, which is where I would go to the raspberry bushes in the backyard and pick the beetles off of them and ask her, how many beetles do you think I have in my hand? And then she would guess, and I would open my hand and be like, this many beetles, and then she'd be like, ha ha ha, and then we would just play that dumb game over and over and over again. And she was blind, so she couldn't even like see the beetles or anything, but I guess she took my word for it on how many there were in my hand. Here is the old church. This is the only existing church in this neighborhood now. There used to be two. There used to also be a Catholic church. There's multiple different sects of Christianity. I don't know what this one is. I just know that my family is not Catholic and we are not going to the Catholic church. We're only going to this church. And now the Catholic church got knocked down, so we win. And right over here is the governor's house, the fanciest house in the neighborhood. Have a gander. They'd have this little tea time thing twice a week. And my cousin, for years and years, was like begging to go. And I think in our imagination, it was like this all-you-can-eat buffet of pastries and we were just gonna like stuff our face. But actually, you had to be very ladylike, which we are not. And there was not a whole lot of pastry selection, actually. They were a little bit stingy on the pastries, given the ticket price to get into the tea time. But still, it was an interesting experience, nevertheless. This little road right here has two precious memories attached to it. One is me learning how to ride a bike, and we always would come down to this road here because there aren't many cars on it, and we would get stuck on that hairpin turn a lot. That was like the testing ground of whether my cousins and I had mastered riding a bike. And the other thing is the evening walk that my family goes on after dinner pretty much every day during the summer. Check out that view. That's why we come here, to see the sunset. It's very nice. This building behind me apparently used to be a jail. My mother told me that back in her day, you could see the people in the jail and they could actually yell to you through the window. So whenever she or her brothers would walk in here, they would like yell at her and you could actually talk to the prisoners, which is kind of unheard of in this day and age, but that was like the 70s, so I guess nobody really cared. And this is the courthouse here. This house right here used to belong to my great aunt, and she lived up to the ripe old age of 99, and they were in the middle of planning her 100th birthday celebration when she departed from this world. But hey, 99 is still really solid. This building right behind me is the old hotel, and back in my grandma's day, which was like the 1920s, 1930s, this was a pretty bougie hotel. When I was growing up, that building was a furniture store. My cousin and I would go in there sometimes and like play house, and you could just play in there for hours and just like forget the world exists. Something really interesting about this place is that in my grandma's day, it was a really bustling, well-to-do small town. In my day, I would spend about 2 to 3 weeks every summer here, so still got a pretty good glimpse of this place. And it was just the most quiet, abandoned little town you'd ever dang seen. There was like nobody here except for some elderly residents, and there just was not anything going on. Pretty much all the local businesses had disappeared. It just looked like it was literally going to crumble into oblivion. Until the recent 5-ish years. Every time I come to this place, there are more and more people. And they're young people too. It's not just the original elderly residents. And you may think, wow, is the US doing rural revitalization too? No, it is the housing crisis. Let my cousin tell you a little bit more about that.
Renting is
You rent,
terrible, like it,
and you die.
The landlords are just, they will jack up the price all the time after each lease. There's not enough housing being built.
Because of the housing crisis, people are being like forced back to
Oh, if
these
there's a
dead
house,
little
there's a
towns.
person in it.
That's just so wild, because like just my memory of this place is it always being so empty, and then coming back this time like, oh my gosh, there's people outside. So yeah, it's just a very interesting side effect of a problem that is plaguing many areas of the US. It has caused these abandoned little towns to kind of come back to life a little bit. I am not offering any commentary this way or that way, I'm just telling you what it is. That is what's happening. So this town has more people than it ever has in my entire life. The building behind me used to be a restaurant, but I've never seen that in my life. It was back in my grandma's day. This building used to be a general store, and I do remember that from my childhood. I remember me and my cousins coming down to the general store and getting like candy or whatever, but I think around the time we were like 10 years old, the general store went out of business. And that began a cycle of people buying that building and doing something in it for like 2 to 3 years and then going out of business. And I've seen like 3-ish little restaurant, bakery kind of establishments come and go. And the current restaurant, bakery establishment that is there has survived already for about 3 years. So hopefully they can make it in the long haul. It is nice to see small businesses sort of thriving here. Like I've seen a lot of people going in and out of the bakery this morning because there are actually people living here for once. Morning.
Morning.
I love his garden. It's so lush. This building behind me is the old school. It's about 130 years old. It's where my grandma went to elementary school. A lot of new school buildings are just not very aesthetic. The school I went to was really nothing worth writing home about. It was pretty ugly, to be honest, but these buildings from like the early 1900s, late 1800s, they're super cute. Like people back then really knew how to make a building aesthetic. Here is the library, and it used to actually just be this tiny building. And now they've upgraded. Not only do they have this mini library outside in case you come by when it's not open and you want to borrow a book, they also have a huge extension on the back. So as you guys can see, there is some life coming back into this neighborhood, but there is by no means a lot of stuff to do here. It's still not the most exciting place on earth, but why do I like Vermont so much? It's because of the amazing natural scenery in every single direction. We're a very outdoorsy family. We love being outside, and all my memories in Vermont in my childhood are swimming in lakes and hiking and horseback riding and doing non-stop outdoorsy things all day, every day.
It's that love for nature and small obscure places that also drove me to live in a village in China with mountains right in my backyard. I look forward to someday being able to bring my kids to Vermont to have the same kind of childhood summer memories that I always had, even if it takes a ridiculously long plane flight to get there. That's all for today, everyone. In the next video, I'll be sharing with you guys my very first time riding on an American train, and an overnight train at that. So stay tuned and see you next time.